According to Robert Anton Wilson, we don't just have the one head, we've got two. In other words, there's my head that you can see there, but actually inside that head, my brain is creating a virtual world, a simulation, and I am also in that simulation. So I'm in my own simulation. I think that's basically what Robert Anton Wilson was saying. And it is, of course, an important thing to say, because it adds a twist to everything that we don't see. We don't see that twist coming. So when we don't see that particular twist, and the twist that I'm talking about is the twist whereby I act as the simulation of myself. So if we don't see that twist, and I don't see that I'm acting as a simulation of myself, this creates a whole bland kind of a world that is entirely unreal. So the price we pay for neglecting to distinguish between the simulation of ourselves and who we really are is that our entire lives get swallowed up in fantasy, not to put too fine a point on it. And there's absolutely no way that can ever be otherwise. The simulation of me, the idea that I have of me that is running, that my mind runs with, it's just another idea, just like any other idea. All ideas are ideas, which is to say that there's nothing at all real about them. So just by this act of, whatever we want to call it, negligence, forgetfulness, laziness, carelessness, by not seeing that actually I'm acting as the simulation of myself here, so I have to kind of be aware of that. And what happens is we just skip over it and we just carry on without ever coming back to that awareness. We're just running ahead on the basis of the mind-created simulation of who we are. We don't spend any time in that little zone where things are more nuanced, and we can say, "Oh, this is curious." There's a kind of curious nuance going on here. Because if we were to spend time in that zone, that particular zone of uncertainty and paradox, then we wouldn't go running off so damn fast. And it's definitely the case that we don't like all this paradoxicality and things not being what they seem to be. We don't like that. We have distaste for it. We have an aversion towards it. We like our realities to be nice and black and white. And so we do skip on, basically. That's the reason we skip on so quickly. Because we don't have we can't see the value in the philosophical side of things. But the price we pay then is for this kind of negligence on our part, is that we launch straight in to a world that is predicated upon an idea, not a reality. And so the whole of my life is also a furtherance of this idea, a continuation of this idea, an extension of this idea. It's like I'm thinking about being alive. I keep on thinking about it, and I'm thinking, oh, well, yes, this, and oh, yeah, let's do that, etc., etc. I never get to the point where I actually stop thinking, which means that I never get to the point where life actually starts. Like, there's no way life can happen to an idea. Ideas don't have life. They don't have the possibility of life. That's okay. Ideas aren't supposed to be living things. Ideas are supposed to be ideas. That's okay. We can't feel sad for ideas because they can't have a life. But the thing is that we we're doing ourselves. We're shortchanging ourselves big time with our eagerness to jump in and steam full steam ahead and avail of all that life has to offer without tuning into what's really going on first. We're going off half-cocked. And once we do go off, it's a big, big race. The whole way it's a race. From kindergarten on, there's all these little things we're supposed to, little things we're supposed to attain, benchmarks we're supposed to attain, milestones we're supposed to reach. It's all competitive, it's all racing, it's all hurrying. Hurry, hurry, hurry. Now, when we're in this world of hurrying, we never actually connect with reality. We never actually go in such a way that we actually touch off it and feel it and go, oh, yes. Because we're in so much of a rush, and when you're in a rush, you can't connect with reality because being in a rush means you're going from one thought to another, from one idea to another. I mean, there's no rush in life itself because life is in no hurry to get anywhere. That doesn't mean that life doesn't get anywhere. It doesn't mean that it's just sitting there, all kind of stodgy like. It just means that there's no hurry. There's no preconception of, oh, we're going to get somewhere good, so let's try harder to get there. Or, oh, we might get somewhere bad, so let's put the brakes on and try as hard as we can not to get there. So all of that is thought. That's all hurrying, trying to get to the goal or trying to avoid an unwanted outcome. All that's different types of hurrying, different types of panic, different types of pressure. Nothing to do with life at all. That's just thought. So life doesn't hurry, but it is moving. And the reason it's moving is because it's not preconceiving the next step of its movement. Whereas when we're in the business of thinking and doing everything via thinking, the one thing we never do is move into the next stage of things or the next bit of the journey without first preconceiving what it is we're moving into. We're being canny there, we're being smart. I'm not stupid, I'm not going to go rushing in, I'm going to know what I'm doing first. And the problem there is, which is rushing. I get an idea of things and I think, yeah, that looks good, let's make it happen quick, quick, quick. But the problem with that is I'm never actually leaving my thoughts, as I was saying earlier. It's all in my thoughts. And from there I'll have another idea and another idea and another idea. So socialized life is all a big rush, and it's all full of goals and ideas and this followed by that, followed by the other. And it's all a failure to live, because living only ever starts when we move out of the known, when we stop preconceptualizing the next moment and trying to control things so that what we want to be the next moment is the next moment, which we call success. Success is where we get things to be exactly the way we want them to be, in the face of great odds maybe, requiring lots of effort and ingenuity and cleverness, and everyone goes, wow, look what he just did there. That's really cool. But all that I've done is just project an idea ahead of me and then step into that idea as if I'm actually engaging in life, when I'm not. I'm engaging in thinking about life, and thinking is a state of non-engagement. It's impossible to think and engage in life or engage in being in the world at the same time. Thinking is holding back, trying to work out what's going on before we jump in. so that I know what's happening. I'm not caught up in something that I don't know what it is. And yet that is, in a nutshell, the only way to be is to be caught up in something that we don't know what it is, going from one unknown to another. That's, as I keep on saying, that's this thing called life. No scaffolding, no reference points, nothing like that. We can't understand anything about it at all. If we were to be honest, we can't, because from this moment on, this second on, I don't know what's going to happen. Therefore, it's the unknown. That we have a problem with a radical unknown, so we do our best to control. Control means perpetuate the past, because the only thing I can do in my controlling is arrange things in a way that I see as being beneficial or optimal. But that means that by definition, I'm living in a world that I already know about, because it's my ideas of what's good and what's helpful and what's advantageous. So I never, ever do move out of my own thoughts. So goals are always old. No matter how bright and shiny and exciting it might seem to be zooming along towards a lovely goal, it isn't. That's just the sterile, rotational activity of thought. That's just being on a little Ferris wheel in the fairground, going around and around and around and around. So, look, the goal's coming, and then going back the other way. We might say, oh no, the unwanted thing's happening, but then that'll pass, and then, oh look, the goal's happening. If you see what I mean, life in the known is always an oscillation between two poles. The pole of what I have said is good or advantageous, and the pole of what I have said is bad or disadvantageous. So, what I'm essentially saying is our normal way of doing things, our normal way of doing life, is a total disaster. And it's worse because there's millions and billions of us all joined up together doing what each other are doing, are frightened to question it or not do it. So it's kind of like a disaster. It's very hard not to get mixed up in. And I guess we do have to get mixed up in it. We do have to get caught up in it. But the thing is to learn the lesson that is in the mistake. And that's the value of the mistake. But obviously, if we don't ever learn and we're not really interested in learning, and then that value never really appears. This isn't what I'm trying to say, is that this idea about having me existing within my own simulation, so I never actually leave the simulation, because everything I do and experience and all the events that happen are also parts of the simulation. So what I'm saying is that this is no small thing. It's so critical. We constantly have our antennae out looking for interesting things, like, oh, what about this or what about that, particularly these days when we have access to so much information. We're always looking for and if you find something that's like, oh, look at this is good, you might kind of post it on some of your friends' social media accounts or whatever. Compared to what we're talking about here, that stuff is absolute ludicrous, trivial nonsense. Who gives a damn, really? It doesn't make a blind bit of difference if we've made that first mistake and never realizing in our hurry that we are living life on the basis of our idea of ourselves. If we don't cotton on to that, everything else is completely worthless. There is no good versus bad. There is no advantageous versus disadvantageous. There isn't, because not the benchmark, the reference point that we're using to be able to say that something is advantageous or not advantageous is the idea of ourselves, which isn't real. So our measuring stick, our reference point isn't real. So absolutely everything that follows on from having an unreal reference point, because we create the whole everything out of our reference point, everything comes back to it and is referred to it. Everything, absolutely everything, is completely futile. It's a complete waste of time. And if that isn't significant, then what the hell would we rate as significant? Do you know? How can we not see that as significant? But the answer is, of course, we can very easily see it as not significant, because that's the whole way the game is played by displacing or shifting our attention onto the irrelevant and the trivial and the superficial, missing the biggest thing of all. So everyday life, not everyday life as life is in itself, but everyday life in terms of the socialized life that we all live together, and we live life in a world that we've all agreed to, that is, we've all agreed that this world is real, and then we've jumped into that world and we're living our lives within it. That's what, because if we didn't do that, if I didn't do that, I wouldn't be able to talk to anyone. I wouldn't be able to compare notes with anyone. So first we have to agree on what life's all about, what the world is, what it consists of. So once we agree on that, then we all set off on our journeys, and we can compare notes, but the notes are meaningless and our journeys are meaningless, because all that is a consensus idea, which is the same as any other idea. And much as it feels good to be having companions, having a group of other people, so you don't go it alone. Going it alone is the only way to have a standard chance of actually being real, because you don't have to kind of prove yourself to others or make sense in terms of how other people see the world, which straight away means nullifying yourself, becoming unreal without realizing it. So that's the big danger in society, because we make sense of ourselves via the way which everyone else has of making sense of things. We straight away made everything into a nonsense. We've just straight away brought into a total worthless fantasy. It doesn't seem like a worthless fantasy at the time, because it's made up of excitement, two sorts of excitement: positive excitement, the good things happening, or negative excitement, oh my god, the really awful thing might be about to happen. So that excitement sucks up our attention, it just eats it up. Euphoric anticipation sucks up every last bit of our attention, because we never look beyond the goal we're aiming at. Dysphoric anticipation hoovers up all our attention for the same reason. So even though there's nothing in this mind-created fantasy, the mind-created simulation, we never get to see this, because we're going from one type of excitement to another the whole time, and all of the excitement is based on the idea that there's something that's actually going to be gained, or something which is actually going to be lost. So there's going to be content there. Like, I think there is actual content, obviously, to get excited about. If I knew there was no content, zero content, I'm not going to get excited about it. Who's going to get excited about zero content? It's like saying, okay guys, absolutely nothing at all is going to happen in precisely 3.5 seconds. Are we going to all wait around holding our breath? Are we going to get excited? Are we going to be thrilled? Not really. And that's what life is like. The only events that we get excited about are events that the mind constructs in relation to itself, or the mind constructs in relation to us as who the event is happening to. The only reason I care about any events is because it's happening to me, and is it going to impact one way or another. And yet that is fantasy, and the reason it's fantasy is because all this stuff that's going to happen to the idea of myself is only happening to the idea of myself, which isn't real. So the excitement basically is what I'm trying to say. All that excitement is absurd because it comes out of nothing. You're getting excited about nothing on the whole time. You're getting up, going right up in the air, and then we're coming right back down again, going right up in the air. Euphoria, dysphoria, pleasure, pain. And it's all about nothing. Which is kind of funny, isn't it? When you see someone, if you saw someone continuously getting really, really up about something and down about something, and yet what they're getting up and down about it doesn't exist. That's kind of weird, isn't it? Why would we do that? Why would we make such fools of ourselves? And the answer to that is that it really does make sense for us to buy into the positive and negative excitement. A good thing is going to happen to me, or a bad thing is going to happen to me, because this reaffirms the assumption or notion that there is this self, who the good thing or bad thing is going to happen. So if I put all of my attention on the outside, on the event that's going to come, or the goal that I'm striving after, the very fact that I'm doing this, and not just doing it once every in a while, doing it all the time with big things and little things, that reifies the notion of self. So I get a very, very strong feeling that, yeah, there is a self here, and this self is being reified by all the feelings that I'm having of being excited by this. So the excitement is really kind of a smokescreen, and it stops us saying that there isn't a self. If we weren't getting excited about everything, but if we were just looking at it, see what it really is, rather than assuming, oh, here's the content coming. If we actually looked into it philosophically and were thinking, well, is there really a content? Maybe there isn't a content. So if I was looking without the excitement that comes from believing in a content that doesn't exist, then we would see through the extrinsic self, the idea of the self, very damn quickly. It would vanish. It needs to be created the whole time. And not only does it need to be created the whole time, it needs to be created the whole time without me ever latching onto the fact that that is what I'm doing. So I manage that by talking about goals the whole time. I'm really talking about the self, which says it wants to attain the goal. And really the self doesn't really want to attain the goal so much. What it wants to do is believe itself to be real. So the whole thing, and this is exactly what Gregory Tucker has said in his YouTube videos, the whole thing is an elaborate scam. And what we really want to do is promote this, what we could call, what Gregory Tucker calls the master lie. That the one who is being dreamed, which is Tucker's terms, or the one who is being simulated, my idea of myself, isn't a simulation, isn't just an idea, isn't being dreamed, but is actually real. Is not being dreamed at all, but is totally real. And that's what really matters to us, that everything we do is for the sake of that at the end of the day. Nothing matters to the idea of myself which I have identified with, so that I'm no longer aware that it's an idea. Nothing matters to that idea so much as proving to itself that it actually is real, that it actually exists. And the thing about that, as I have said a number of times, is that all the activity that proceeds from that basis of idea of ourselves, trying to prove that it's real, none of that activity is real either at the end of the day. No matter how I strain myself to say that it is real and get really excited in the process, like if I say, oh, a great thing is going to happen, I'm going to win, that's really just me saying I'm real on another level of things. It's never going to, It's never going to go beyond this constantly trying to prove something is true that never can be proven to be true. And so when the Buddha says conditioned existence is suffering, we can see why it will be suffering, because there's never ever going to be a good outcome for it, because from the conditioned self's viewpoint, the only good outcome is that it is actually a real thing, not just an idea. And that can never happen. That's the only thing it wants to happen. So all of the activity and stretching and straining and striving, which involves pain, it would kind of be worth it. So the logic, the unstated logic goes, if we get the prize, that'd be worth it. The sweat is worth it if you get the prize. But no one's ever going to get this prize. That's the thing. There is no one there to get the prize.